And speaking of summer, in the aftermath of Liverpool beating Spurs, there were quite a lot of stories coming out about how Arne Slot's going to be backed with potentially the most significant sums we've seen since FSG have been at the club. And do you think that that's something that we should expect? Should we expect, to use the phrase, a summer war chest for Slot to compete for title number 21?
Yeah, it seems that that's the noises coming out of there. And, I had a conversation with someone a couple of weeks ago at Liverpool who kind of, they're just not playing that down, really, which, I mean, usually it would be all about kind of expectation management. I'm not sure they'll have absolutely loved those reports that came out yesterday specifically, which was kind of bigging this up to be the biggest summer ever. Because that does create a level of expectation, but as I say, no one's really playing it down, and there's an acceptance that it probably has to be a big summer because of factors kind of outside of Liverpool's control, which includes the fact that so many players with doubts over their heads and who could be sold coming into this. So once you sort out the couple of positions you definitely need, which are probably likely to be left back and centre forward, you're probably going to end up having to do a load more business as well because of players departing. So they're going to be in a position now to spend and strengthen, and there's a desire to do that, knowing that they sat out last summer pretty much entirely, didn't they? So they know that they need to change things, and they know there's areas for clear improvement despite this being such a successful season. So but the fact that they're going into that window doing that, knowing that they've got the Premier League title in the bag, they can say to any new player, look, this new manager is just as good as the last one. We just won the title. We want to do more. Do you want to come and be part of it? How easy is that to sell if you're the sporting director? Surely pretty easy. So, it looks like a big summer of change coming, which is exciting and interesting and good for me as a journalist, because they did basically nothing last summer. So that's great. But it's going to be an interesting one, and they're going into it from a position of strength.
But we can't forget Premier League winner Federico Chiesa coming into the club. But I've also seen lots of reports about outgoings, and the obvious one to talk about would be Darwin Núñez, because let's face it, his transfer hasn't been a success at Liverpool. But alongside that, you've also had reports about Diogo Jota potentially moving to Saudi Arabia. And I find that really interesting because Luis Diaz has perhaps been talked about more as someone that may leave the club. But considering Jota's injury history, considering Diaz has performed quite well this season, would potentially Jota's exit be seen as something more sensible to consider, and maybe keeping Diaz as a number 9 option, even if Liverpool sign another striker?
Yeah, so this is the interesting thing about the window, and I think so much of it is going to come down to timing. Who the offers come in for first, when that lands, I think that's going to be a big part of it rather than going into it. I think Liverpool are going to have to be slightly reactive, really, because you can't predict what other clubs are going to do and when they're going to offer the money and whether it's going to be enough and who it'll come in for and who it won't come in for. That aspect of it is very difficult to predict, really. And so, we're in a situation going into this window where I think you can pretty much guarantee with Núñez that the money will come for him. That interest was there in January and that will come back. He's a good age. He's not had injuries. He's in, the want and the desire to sign him will be there. So we can pretty much put him in there. As much as it's hard to guarantee about anything about the window, you can almost guarantee that he will go. But then beyond that, as you say, there's interest from Saudi and Jota. He might feel that he's ready to go because his body's not quite been there this season in the Premier League, has it? And he does look like he's lost a little bit, unfortunately. Then you throw in the fact that Chiesa, I think, is pretty much nailed on to leave as well, because he's going to want to play football. There'll be a market for him in Italy. And then, of course, Luis Diaz, interest from Saudi, interest from clubs on the continent as well. That's a lot of doubts over a lot of players in your front line now. Thankfully, they've got Salah's contract nailed down. I think Gakpo's absolutely fine. He will definitely be there. But what they're not going to want to do, they're not going to want to sell 4 forwards and have to replace them. They're really not. And I say replace them, I think they might go down to 5 frontline forwards next season. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Rio Ungamoa would maybe be the 6th then, and he would pick up kind of Chiesa minutes in the League Cup, etc. I think that may be the approach, but still. So they're not, if they sell 4, they're not going to have to replace 4, but they might only have to replace 3. But I still don't think they're going to want to do that. So my thinking is, if you can if money for Jota comes in early, if you can sell Núñez as you would expect, if Chiesa, you can get a move for him. it just makes sense in my opinion, sorry, to maybe keep someone like Diaz around for maybe just another year. I don't think Liverpool will be desperate to offer him a contract, but if they say, look, we'll get him into his final year and then maybe we'll make a decision over him. He's on relatively low wages. He's a hard worker. He's flexible. He can play across the front line. And he's a good person to have around the squad. I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of got denied a move on the basis that Liverpool would prefer to sell others, and maybe if that money comes in for them at the right time. But there's so much up in the air, so many plates spinning. Really, it's really difficult to judge and hard to offer guarantees. But as I say, I think a lot of it will come down to timing. And then if Liverpool can put themselves in a position where they can limit the turnover slightly, I think they would prefer to go down that route, because as we know, heavy player turnover can lead to maybe slow starts in a season, can maybe put you out the title race, can lead to poor performances as you kind of work things out. So yeah, it'd be interesting. I think in Liverpool, in an ideal situation, if they can, maybe they can only get the business done in late July or August or whatever, and if it comes to that, I think their ideal situation was go into the first game of next season with maybe a Gakpo, Diaz, Salah front line and 2 new guys on the bench who you can slowly integrate into the team. That I think would be the ideal situation, because if you're going to defend the title, you need some continuity there. So, but whether they can get it, it's very, very hard to predict how it'll play out.